Welcome to Sikbaggers YouTube channel. I'm Steve, and today we've got a brand new product from CIRO 3D. Now, if you've watched our channel in the past, you'll know that we've done a ton of CIRO 3D products on our channel. This is one of the products that I've been anticipating for quite a while. Today we're going to be installing the TAC-10 light cannons with the Vision X technology LEDs inside. This is a product that I've been anticipating for quite a while. I've wanted to get these on the Road Glide forever. If you live in deer country like I do, having an additional light source on the front of the bike is a must. You can never have enough riding experience to prepare you for things that jump out in front of you off the side of the road. Like I said, living in deer country around here, night riding, I'm just not a big fan of it. We always try to get back before dark or at least dusk just because of the deer around here. They're insane. They're absolutely brain dead animals that will jump out in front of you at the very last second. You can see them on the side of the road and you slow down and you try to anticipate what they're gonna do, and you just never know what they're gonna do. Not only deer, but other critters out there too. We've got fox and all kinds of stuff out here, possums, and those are pretty good sized animals. And if you can see them a lot sooner, you have a lot better chance of actually avoiding that animal. So for me, that is a huge plus. You're going to be able to get these for the 2014 up touring models. You can get them with the Street Glide bracket, which I'll show you right here. We're not going to be installing these on a Street Glide, but this is the bracket that you get, and that's pretty cool design. You're going to take your bullet blinker off, you're going to put this on, put your bullet blinker back on, and it also has this included tie down on it as well, which is super cool because if you've ever been looking for a place to tie your bike down, now they're built right into the bracket. For the Road Glide models, you're gonna be able to mount these to your 1 1/4 inch crash bar. It doesn't matter what brand or style you have, as long as it's a 1 1/4 inch crash bar, you can mount this style, you can mount the lights to that. Now that being said, just because you have a Street Glide doesn't mean you have to mount it to the side underneath your bullet blinkers like that. As long as you have a crash bar, even on a Street Glide, you could mount it to the crash bar as well. Now our 2015 Road Glide back here has a 1 1/4 inch standard crash bar on it, but we do not have lower vented fairings. And that's a question that came up that I seen. It was posed to them, will these lights still fit if you have lower vented fairings? And as you can see right here, yes, they will. I do not have lower fairings on the Road Glide, so I couldn't show you that. So if you find yourself in a situation where you have a Road Glide and you have to mount them to the crash bar, but you have lower fairings, you can still mount them to the crash bar. There's still plenty of room to mount them and adjust them and use them. With the 10-watt Cree LED chips in here, you're gonna have 2,104 lumens, combined lumens out of the two light cannons. I don't know if you've ever seen 2,104 lumens, but that is bright. So individually, 1,472 lumens, 2,104 combined lumens on these. Based on the research that I've done of the other Vision X lights that are on the market, they make them for all different applications. But if you start looking at the other Vision X light cannons that are available, on the 20-watt Cree LED, it gives you about 1,000 feet of usable light. So based on a 20-watt Cree LED giving you 1,000 feet of usable light, with this one being 10 watts, it's going to give you approximately 500 feet of usable bright white light at 2,104 lumens. So giving them the name light cannons is dead on. When you put these things on, you're gonna literally have two light cannons shooting out the front of your bike. These light cannons can be hooked up a couple of different ways, and when you don't have the light cannons on, you will have a white halo ring LED light that just stays on. So wiring these light cannons into your bike can be done several different ways as well. You can have a key on where you literally hit the key, they're on constantly all the time. You have this switch, which is what we're going to be installing today, where I can reach up and turn these switch on and off, or you can wire them into your high beams so they actually come on only when you hit your high beams. And like I've said this a million times in the past, adding any kind of LED light to your motorcycle, front, rear, side, whatever you're doing, adding those LED lights is a win-win for everyone. So what we're going to do now is open up the box and see what everything that we have inside here. Of course, we have full detailed colored instructions as always from CIRO. And by the way, this one's going to be part number 45019. This is the 1 1/4 inch clamp style that we're going to be installing on the Road Glide. Inside here, we're going to have a couple of brackets. We're going to lay these off to the side. You're going to get your lights out. And of course, plug and play as always from CIRO. And here's the light cannon itself. Very, very cool, very sleek. Heat fins on the back side. We got waterproof plugs on the back. Right here on the edge of the reflector, you'll see the white ring right here. That's our white halo ring. Deep down inside the reflector there, you're gonna see the 10-watt Cree LED from Vision X. And then of course, your long distance iris reflector that's on here. Having that LED way deep down in there and then having this reflector on here is what's going to give us that long throw of light that we need. Heavy black aluminum housing. You got the heat fins on the back side to dissipate heat from the LED and the chipboard that's inside here. So we've got 2 of these. And then we have a box of goodies down at the bottom. Your 1 1/4 inch mounting bracket, and it does have ribbed rubber around this too to protect your crash bar, but also clamp down on that crash bar so when you're riding, these won't move. We got a small bag of 4 screws and an Allen wrench. Inside the hardware bag here, we're just gonna have our bolts with preloaded blue Loctite on there, some nylock nuts, some rubber washers, and a clamshell style wire clamp. So the very first thing we wanna do is let the bike cool down. If you've been riding it, we don't wanna get any burns in here. Safety always first. Second thing you want to do is get the bike in an upright position. The reason for getting the bike in an upright position is so that you can make sure that you have the lights equally on both sides of the bike. So if you want to put them on the top of your crash bar, which is where we're going to put them, I don't think I'm going to put this up because I've got that puts the light cannon up here to the top, really close to the fairing. But like I said, you can flip this over and now your light cannon hangs off of the bottom and goes underneath the crash bar versus on top. If you're going to put them on the side, you may want them out here shooting out. If you want them on the inside of the crash bar, simply flip it over just like the top, and now they're on the inside shooting out. But for our application, we're going to be mounting these on the top, and we're going to let ours hang down on the bottom just like this and shoot under. We got our little baggie of hardware here with a little provided Allen wrench, which is very cool of CIRO to put that little Allen wrench in there. Right now, we're just going to put this together. We're not going to tighten these down. Now I'm just spinning mine around because I'm right-handed and this just makes this easier for me to get started. You're gonna have to squeeze the bracket together really hard to get that bolt started. And once you get it started, then you can flip it over where you want it. Like I said, don't run these down just quite yet. Just get them started where you can spin it and kind of move it on the bar. Like I said, you get the first screw in, the other side, you're gonna have to squeeze that rubber around that. That rubber's there, like I said, to keep this from moving and falling while you're riding, but also to protect your crash bar from getting all scratched up. I think we pretty much have it equal on both sides at this point. So let's move over to the table and go ahead and get our brackets installed onto our light. And one other thing that I mentioned at the beginning of the video, we do have the Evil Iron custom single switch with blanks for touring models. So on your touring models, on the left and right side of the ignition, you'll see 3 buttons, and those usually come from Harley and they're just blanks. Underneath there is a wiring harness connected to that blank panel. This is the panel that's a replacement for that, and it's going to have 1 switch and it's going to have an on and off switch on it, and that's what we're going to be installing today. If you want to run the switch, you're going to have to purchase the switch separately as part number 45042. Once again, the Evil Iron custom single switch with blanks for touring models. Now, I'll have a link to every bit of this down in the description. If you open up the description there at the top, you can click on these links. It'll take you straight over to the website and you can purchase this if you choose to do a switch. The first thing we're going to do is take a rubber bushing and set it inside the bolt hole. We're going to do that on both sides, just like that. We're going to take a carriage bolt. Carriage bolt has the little square on the bottom right there, and that square sits in there, and that's what holds it. We're going to take a star washer, and we're going to put it on both sides, holding it with our finger and our thumb. This part here can be just a little tricky to get it going. Carriage bolt through the bracket. It's very important that we put that on there, because once you get the bracket mounted, you're not going to be able to slip that carriage bolt through there. We're going to line this up. We're going to push this over the star washers, making sure that those stay in place. We're going to start this M8 screw. We're just going to start it for right now. I'll line this one up, another M8, another flat washer. And we're going to get it started. So what I want to do from now is go ahead and mount our light cannon onto the bracket. We're going to pull this up into place, get that carriage bolt square lined up with the square in the bracket, and it'll pop all the way through. We're going to put a flat washer on there. We're going to put our 1/2 inch nylock nut. Now we're not going to completely tighten that down all the way at this time. Now you can see the movement in the light. You've got up, You've got down, you got left, and you have right. So from here we have to gain access to the inside to some wiring. So what we're gonna do now is remove the outer fairing from the Road Glide. So we're gonna start by removing the windshield. I do have the CIRO turn signals up here, so I have to remove this little black screw, take this outer cover off. From here, we wanna raise up on the vent. We're gonna pull the vent cover out. Next thing we're gonna do is just knife hand down here in the back to pop this speaker bracket out. Once you get that started, we're gonna do that on both sides. Right inside here on the inside of your speaker grill on both sides, you're gonna have a bolt here and a bolt on the other side, and it's gonna be a T30. We're gonna loosen those, but do not take them out. Right here on the side of your blinker, whether you have these or you have a bullet blinker on here, you're gonna have a bolt right back here. It's gonna be a 3/16 Allen. Remove that on both sides. Right here on your side wings, you're gonna have 2 bolts. You're only going to remove the bottom one. We're gonna do that on both sides. Now from there, we're gonna come up here to the top and we're gonna disconnect our turn signals that run down to the side down here. Should be right here at the top. We're gonna disconnect those. So what I'd like to do from there is just place myself in front so I've got my body on the fairing and I'm controlling the fairing. I'm gonna reach over and I'm gonna finish by hand taking out those 2 bolts that were underneath the speaker covers. Now once you have those 2 bolts out, you can just gently pull your fairing straight out and away. Right up here on the left side of your inner fairing, off of your blinker wire here in the zip tie, if everything is stock, mine's definitely not stock, but this accessory plug right here is what we're plugging into. This is gonna be for the halo light. Now in the provided harness from CIRO, you can see that this does have a splitter. You're gonna have a male and a female end. On your bike, it should be a female. If there's nothing in it, more than likely there's gonna be a plug in it like that. You're just going to push it in and disconnect it. You're going to plug this one in. And like I said, if you already had something plugged into that, you do have the female end off here off of the splitter. So whatever you had plugged in there, go ahead and unplug it and plug it in this. Since I don't have anything plugged into it, I'm gonna take the other side of this, take my plug and go ahead and put that back in so that's covered up. That leaves us 3 sets of wires on this end. If you look at these wires, you're gonna have a red and a yellow, just a double, and then you're gonna have a white, red, and black. These are gonna be for your lights. These are gonna go in and plug into your lights. This one is gonna plug into our power supply. This accessory wire that we just plugged in strictly just runs the halo lights. Now to route the wires is pretty much gonna be up to you how you wanna do it. I wanna do this as clean as I possibly can. The directions that come with the CIRO generally just kind of leave this area open. It just says route the wires. So you can do this however you want, but like I said, I'm gonna do this as clean as I possibly can. So what I'm going to do is run my wire across this crash bar. On the Road Glide models, if you look right down in here, you'll be able to see where the wires that come from underneath your tank go under and into the neck and come up through the middle behind your headlight. When we pull the headlight out here in just a second, you'll see the square hole in the middle and all of the wires coming through that. And that's where I want my wires to go. So I'm gonna route these wires over. We're gonna go up the neck, we're gonna go across, we're gonna go inside the neck, and then we're gonna come out in the middle right behind the headlight. So let's get the camera over here and get this headlight out. It's very easy, 4 bolts. We're gonna use a 3/16 Allen. You're gonna have 1 up in there, 1 up in there, 1 here, and 1 here. We got the 4 headlight bolts out. I'm going to pull this headlight forward, making sure that I don't catch any of my wires, because I do have a hot mess going on up here with my amps and everything else. And give myself plenty of room to let my headlight just kind of set right here. I am going to disconnect the headlight just to get that wire out of the way. So if I zoom in on this, you got your 4 mounting bolts right here, and you can see where all of our wires come up through the neck from the back of the bike. So that's where we want to poke our wires through. I can't really get my camera up in there good and my hands and stuff so you can see what I'm doing, but just trust me on this. When you get the wire up here to the front, you can see there's going to be a black kind of piece of plastic there that kind of covers the hole, but on the end of it, it's open. You can go to that and poke it through and pull the wire through. Before I do that, I'm going to save myself a little hassle of catching each individual wires on different things. Just take a little bit of electric tape, wrap it around the end like this, just a little bit. We're going to be pulling that off in a minute. Now I've came around here to the front and I'm going to fish this wire through. Wherever it comes out, it doesn't really matter. There's no left and right. Now all we have to do is pull the other one through. Now that we got our wires pulled through, I'm going to come back down here. I'm going to run this up over to my crash bar, put a zip tie there, and make sure that that locking part is on the bottom. The wire is on the bottom. We're going to run it over close to the frame, and we're going to put another one there. We're just going to do that same thing on the other side of the bike. Now that we have our wires ran up here and we've got our lights up here, we can go ahead and get these plugged in and we can go ahead and get them tested. So we're just going to match up the color of wires on these. It's very easy. You have red, white, and black. Really, really kind of hard to mess this up. We're going to plug red to red. We're going to plug white to white. And of course, black to black. We're going to do that on both. Black to black, white to white, and red to red. Now you can zip tie these off and tuck this anywhere that you want to. Like I said in the beginning of the video, there's 3 different ways that you can run these auxiliary lights. And I'm going to go ahead now, we're going to do the switch, but I'm going to go ahead and show you how to hook it up the other 2 ways as well. If you're wanting these lights to come on strictly with the high beam, very easy. Get yourself a test light like this. You can pick one of these up. It's on Amazon. I'll put a link down in the description for that as well. If you click on that, I'll take you over to Amazon and get you a cheap little test light, or you can pick them up anywhere you want to. So I've unplugged my headlight so I don't have to poke any of my wires. I'm actually going to poke the prongs on the end down here and figure out which one of these is my headlight. So I want to make sure I have a really good ground on my test light, which I've got it right here on a bolt. That should be a decent ground. I'm going to reach around here and I'm going to kick the ignition on. We can already see that the halo lights came on. Remember, that was plugged in to the auxiliary switch up here, so that's going to come on. Now, your model may differ on the wire, so that's why you need to test it. My high beam, I'm almost completely positive my high beam on a 2015 Road Glide is that blue and white striped wire right there. So if I've got my low beams on and I plug that in, we have no light. Now I've turned my high beam on. When I hit that blue and white wire, I should have power, which I do. If I turn my high beam off, we lose the high beam. So we know that's the high beam wire. So now that we know what wire it is, you can use the little T-tap connector that CIRO sends you. You simply wrap it around that wire and clamp it shut. Listen for the click. On the back side, you're gonna have a female in. You're gonna take this red side and you're gonna plug that in. And now you've got a connection to your high beam only power source. So when you hit your high beams, your cannons will come on. If you want to run your cannons all the time, full time, no control over them, when you kick the ignition on, your cannons come on. It's very simple. All you're gonna do is take this red wire and you're gonna plug it into this yellow wire. And in order to do that, of course, it's in this little plastic sheath. Take you a sharp knife or something and run it down along this sheath and split it so you can pull these wires apart and then bend them over and plug them into each other. And that is it. Once you connect these wires together, you're gonna have them on all the time. So now we're gonna move to the switch assembly on this. So what we're gonna do now is we have these 2 wires and we have to get these back through kind of that same hole and get them up to where they come up underneath the bottom side of the fairing. And then we've got a switch up there to install, and it's got some preloaded wires off of it. And then we're just going to simply connect these together, and then I'll have an on and off switch. The very first thing that we're gonna do is remove this little switch housing cap underneath the ignition. You wanna kick your ignition fully locked to the left. If you have a little screwdriver with a little hook on the end of it like that, it's gonna be a lot easier. Right down here in the middle, there's a little cutout and you want to just gently push in on that tab. Careful, don't push too hard. You don't want to break that tab off. These break really easy. lift it up, and then you can slide this out. Right here on the side of your gauge cluster, you're gonna have a screw on both sides. We're gonna take a 25 Torx, we're gonna remove that screw. We're gonna remove it on both sides of the bike. Now my ignition had a big cover on it that makes it a little bit harder to get off. So if you've got a cover that snaps on over there, go ahead and take it off. Then you can lift this up. You're gonna push it to the right of the bike and it'll clear that ignition. We don't have to pull that ignition off of there. On the back side, like I said, there are wires. You do have your gauge wire, which I have to use a little pick because I've got big hands. It's hard to get a hold of that, but the edges pop out and then off, just like that. And then you've got the wires that come from the bottom. Now these wires go into a false switch there. So we're gonna unplug this one by clicking it in and pushing it in. Now on the other side, I'm gonna remove this completely just so you guys can see this a lot easier. But the other side, the clip, the wire harness is actually upside down and it makes it really hard to get in there to push that. So if you just go ahead and remove one of the screws, make sure you put a towel and stuff on your tank just like I did so you don't scratch anything. But if you just remove the one screw, you're gonna set it off to the side, you can actually pull that apart and twist it a little bit, just enough to get your finger underneath it and unplug that. When we come back over here to the soft table, we're gonna be taking off the left side, this one here. This is the one that was upside down that we just pulled the screw out of. So we're gonna take this side out. So I want this to go on the left side, but I want my on and off button in the right position and I want it all the way over here to the left. Very easy to do. Just take the back of the switch, push it forward until it comes out. We're gonna reroute the wires into that left side, flip it over, and you can do this however you want. You can put it on the left side, the right side, but just know that this bracket only goes in on one side. So we have to flip it around just like that. Now the on and off is in the right position. We're gonna take our false buttons. Those go to the inside. We're just gonna set those in the hole like that. This will go right down over the top of that and set just like that. You've got everything in there. These are like kind of like sheet metal threaded screws into plastic, so there's absolutely no need for blue Loctite on these. Just go ahead and screw them back down. They're not gonna come loose. And now we're ready to put this back on the bike and it's wired for the lights. Now while the outer fairing and the gauge cluster cover is off, I'm gonna take that red and yellow wire that we had left over up here in the front and we're gonna reverse feed it through that neck like we did the other way for the light. We fed the lights through that hole that went into the neck. We're gonna feed this back the same way. But instead of going to the light, of course, we're gonna go straight back and go up underneath the fairing. So if you can bear with me, you can see I pulled it out right there and there's the wire now sticking out the side of the neck. And with the wires that we have coming from the switch, it's gonna go right underneath this housing, so it's gonna be a perfect fit. Now you'll notice on the new switch, it is just bare wire. On the other end, the end that we just poked through that hole and pulled up here, those are male and female spade connectors. So you've got a couple of choices here. It didn't come with any spade connectors, so you'll have to install your own spade connectors on there, or you can basically strip those two down there off and hardwire it. I'm gonna go ahead and cut the camera, put some spade connectors on here. So I went ahead and attached some male and female spade connectors on there. You do have to pay attention to what wire is what. On here you've got red, which is a male, so your red on this end needs to be a female and vice versa. So we're gonna set this back into place. We're gonna plug in our other false switch. We're gonna plug in our gauge. We're gonna route these wires underneath of handlebars and above the triple tree and get them down here in the front where we can fish these out later. We can set our gauge cluster housing back in place, just like that. We're not gonna worry about screwing anything down right now. I'm gonna come around here to this side. I'm gonna plug this stuff in. So we've got male to female there. And we've got male to female there. And then we can tuck those wires back up under the gauge housing so they don't come out. Now what we're gonna do is go ahead and test the lights. Now that we've tested the lights and everything's working good, we're gonna go ahead and get our screws put back in here. So from here, I'm just gonna go ahead and get my headlight put back in, my outer fairing back on, and then we'll take a look at what they look like. So hopefully that gave you a really good view of what that thing looked like at night. My camera doesn't really do superb at night, but that thing, you could see the angles on that. And like I said, you can also adjust those. I had mine pretty much shooting straight out even with the bike in that video, but you can also angle those out. After we shot the video, I kind of tinkered around with the lights a little bit, kept my left one straight, kept my right one just a little bit farther off to the edge of the road so I could see off to the right. So they are very, very adjustable. And like I said, you can mount them anywhere on that crash bar if you get this style. So after pulling the bike out at night and seeing how bright these things are, it made me think just a little bit. And you need to be very responsible when you're driving with these lights on. And I'm talking about oncoming traffic. These things are super bright because you can wire these up 3 different ways. You can wire them up with the ignition on, and I think that one is the one that you need to be the most responsible with. If you have these things coming on all the time and you have no control over them, it's just when the bike is on, they are on, make sure to take the time to point them down the road. Don't point them at oncoming traffic because you can't turn those things off. Just be responsible. Take the time to point them where they're not blinding oncoming traffic. And then of course you have the high beam installation, which is very easy, which I think would be the most responsible with these type of lights, is that they only come on when you have your high beams on. So if you're running these lights way low down on your crash bar and you're kind of using them for fog lights, it would kind of be the opposite. Most vehicles, the fog lights only come on low beam, and then of course when you hit your high beams, they go off. So your fog is low, you're trying to cut through it, high beams just kind of makes everything super bright. So you may want to play around with that as well. One other thing I forgot to mention too, just real quick, on the front of that, it has the CIRO logo on the front of that trim ring. And because I mounted mine upside down, now that CIRO logo is on the bottom and it's upside down. It's very easy to change. Right on the back side of the lens, there's 4 screws. You take those out, reorientate the trim ring, put the 4 screws back in, and then you'll have the CIRO logo back on top. And I also want to mention too, they also offer a yellow lens kit for that as well. And like I said, all of the links for all of this stuff will be down in the description. A link to the light, a link to the optional switch like what we installed today, and a link to the yellow lens kit as well. I hope this video helped you decide whether or not you wanted the TAC-10 lights on here. I absolutely love them. Super bright, gonna really help me going down the road. But if you have any questions on this install, you know the deal. Drop it in the comment section down below and I'll try to help you the best that I can. I'm gonna get out of here and get myself back to work. I hope to see you in the next video, but until then, as always, be safe, keep your knees in the breeze. Thanks for checking out the video. Don't forget to hit that like and that subscribe popping up over here. And don't forget to check out the rest of the channel because we have a ton of bagger related and softail videos on our channel. And to get you started, maybe you can check out this one or this one. Not really gonna say anything else. You can just click one of those and take you over to another video.